cheese.
Continue what we heard in 2 minutes.
All right, let's get everybody a seat. All right, moving on to 9A, Brian Liang's appointment from the ULDC.
Yeah, real simple, I'm appointing Katie Davis. And I'll give Marcia contact.
All right with that? All right, moving to Katie Davis.
Katie Davis.
All right, moving on to 9B.
Thank you, Your Honor. 9B was the code enforcement policy, and this is the policy we talked about last time. You'll see that it's on pages 97, well, the policy is actually on page 98. Let me just read the policy back to the council and make sure it's, you're in agreement with what we talked about at the last meeting. The meat of the policy says code enforcement complaints will still be handled on a complaint basis with a written affidavit of complaint executed by the complainant. The town manager is authorized to commence proactive code enforcement without a written complaint in cases where code enforcement violations are observed in commercial zoning districts within the town. The town manager is also authorized to initiate code enforcement efforts upon direction from town council during a town council meeting when a violation may cause irreparable harm or is deemed to be egregious in nature. Illegal manure dumping complaints are also handled proactively pursuant to ordinance 212-03. Basically, we get a complaint from somebody, they see a truck or we jump on that right away. Similarly, should the town manager become aware of a situation that is a code violation that may cause irreparable harm or is egregious in nature, the town manager may initiate code enforcement action and bring the matter to the town council at the next regularly scheduled meeting for advice and consent. And that was the item that I was talking to you about earlier, Councilman Joe came in the office, we talked about it, I said, okay, it's a chipping and mulching, and it does not appear that it's going to be consistent with the code, and, we'll go ahead and do it. And I told Councilman Jarrell at that point, to come back to you, make sure you affirm that, yes, staff, go ahead and move forward in a proactive manner on that issue. And with that, I'm happy to answer or discuss anything.
Okay. We've got one gentleman here, Martin McCabe. Right? Okay. You've got a commercial chipping mulching operation, right?
Well, not a commercial.
It's for your own use only?
Yes. Well, we can make mulch.
What's that?
We're looking to make mulch.
For your own use?
No, for a sale.
But that use is illegal.
Well, the commercial chipping and mulching is when you charge to have people dump there.
No, it's when you
Mr. Mayor,
manufacture.
Mr. Mayor, why don't we just hear what the gentleman has to say? This may be a case that is already in the process.
Go ahead, state your case.
Let me ask a question before we go. What is the point of this conversation right now? Are we trying to stay this or in some way, or why are we having this conversation?
Well, I can make all the requirements.
Whoa, wait.
I'd
The
like to
question
understand
was why
we're
we have this policy before you, right? Before we have anyone to speak on it, why is this on the agenda?
No, I'm okay with the policy being.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm thinking that somehow we're starting to get into a review of this gentleman's issues and facts, and I don't think that that's appropriate. Am I wrong?
Well, that's what I was trying to say is, we don't know what the gentleman, he's put in a comment card, he wants to speak to you all, First Amendment rights and whatnot. But I didn't want to have any back and forth if it's related to an open matter.
All right. Go ahead, state your case.
We want to do a chipping and mulching with as an accessory use. We can meet all the requirements except for the 10 acres, which I don't need. I only need 1 acre to actually manufacture the mulch. We don't do anything with horse shavings, doing composting. We're not trying to make any soil. We're just there to make mulch.
Okay.
All
requirements I can meet, the setback, the screening, it's just the 5 acres that would need a additional use for.
Is there a procedure that he should use to?
Well, without discussing a lot of the specifics, let me try to go around the edges, and then you counsel me if you think
Well,
I'm
we're not, the issue is how do you establish a commercial or a mulching process? And let's just go through what the code
And,
requires.
yeah, the code requires 10 acres, it requires a conditional use approval. We did meet with the gentleman, we did give him all the information. In fact, we needed some assistance from the town attorney relative to the issue, because a portion of the right of way on Okeechobee that was taken for the future Okeechobee expansion. And so that actually, even if he was able to take 2 5-acre properties and put it together, it would still be like 9.9 acres. So at that point, the attorney needed additional information. There was a conflict as to whether he didn't get the information, he didn't get the word. Again, without getting too much in that specific thing, the bottom line was the next thing we know, I didn't even know that he was operating until Councilman Gerald brought it to our attention. And I said, ooh, okay, that wasn't supposed to happen. So, I felt, yeah, that's one that might fit into this egregious situation. And so, based on that, I said to Councilman Gerald, I will act on, your inquiry here and your information. We did follow it up, and it turned out that it's in violation. So, and with that, I'd be happy to get to,
So this is going to be something that we're going to be dealing with in your office.
well, if you give me the advice and consent tonight to continue, we will be taking it forward for code enforcement.
You're not talking about this case.
We're not talking-
We got a
Are we
policy.
talking about this policy? Is that what
That's what, that's what we're talking about.
let's speed it up and I'll say that, let's make a motion that we approve this policy.
Okay. We have a motion to accept the policy. We got a second. Further conversation?
Will accepting this policy allow him to put a chipping business on that? Okay, no, I agree.
All right, we have a motion and a second. There's no more comment cards on this issue. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. So what you're going to need to do is get with Mark and go through the process. To see
One last comment. What got me interested in this was a certain thing, but I found out the application was applied back in July of 2012. Now, we had the situation with the hay and the feed sales, to where they were going to be shut down, and then the council finally heard about it. So I guess legally we can't express it. But I see the same thing happening here. This application started back in July, if I'm correct. Okay, here it is, 2000. Huh?
July 30th.
Right. It started in July. We still haven't solved the problem. I'm sure it's going to cost somebody more money when it's a shame that this council or can't say yes or no. So what I see for the future is he'll go in front of the magistrate unless I'm wrong, and fines and stuff will add up, and it may never come to this council, so.
Tom?
No, and once again, that's part of the procedure. And when we talked about setting up our code enforcement issue, I remember specifically having a conversation with Mark about magistrate versus a code enforcement board. Now, code enforcement board is what Ron is referring to, either as the council as the code enforcement board or someone else as the code enforcement board. We can take into account issues under the issues of law. And a magistrate, as Mark explained to us at the time that we made the decision to use a magistrate, only can make decisions based on law. Am I correct? They cannot be sitting here and saying, we sort of feel like it'd be okay, like we could or like a commission could. So if we want to change, that's one way to change. We can change our procedures. I see where Ron's coming from, and I agree with him. Once again, it's regulating the business and all the different hoops he's got to jump through, and he can do everything but one. And not to back and forth with the gentleman, but staff would say that we have to finish the process, and once again, if you don't get a building permit, what do? They charge you double when you get caught. So, this is not the first time that this has happened to us, it's not the first time that anybody's done it. This is not actually. But, I guess what I don't ramble, the point is, we need to change our procedures if the goal is to simplify. And, I guess, I would hope that's what the ODCs or Mark would be proposing to us, is how can we make this stuff simple?
All right, any other comments? All right. Moving to item C. Ron, and all these are yours. I mean, it's 10 o'clock.
You certainly have the right to consider 2 hours. But could we let staff just put some dollars behind those numbers so we can talk about without debating the numbers? If we knew what we're talking about, we know that the number's over 300,000. Just to take the number. There's all the gas tax money. And there's no more money for the district. So there's a big involved thing when we start changing this around. And it's like we're doing budget time in the middle of the year. We already did it.
I'm sorry, Ron. Staff actually put together, and look at where we are today with all our funds, all the commitments that we basically made, all the funds that we have. I mean, it's not $4 million available, it's not $3 million, it's not $2 million. And part of what we said about collecting canal, for example, is in our, we put in our budget, and they put together a sheet. And I have copies of it here, and they have it on the computer where we can show it on the screen. But basically, and they probably do it in a short period of time, to give us a flavor that you have a general fund, which we've all talked about, and there's a chunk of change in there. We have our gas tax funds, there's 2, 5 cents, 6 cents, we've got 2 funds in there. And they've done a projection as you look ahead to the end of this fiscal year. So October of 13, with our budget laid in, you've got the commitments and where we're putting them. So when you're looking at what we don't have committed and what we have our budget currently creating, if you will, in funds, you've got $645,000 in our general fund, which much of that we need to hold as a contingency. We've got $700,000 in gas tax money, according to this, that we have balanced, and that's been our biggest area that we need to get things done so we can spend it. All right? You've got really nothing in sanitation fund, and that's not intended to have anything. You get $10,000. And your capital improvement fund, which basically you've got $1.4 million of budgeted, you have uncommitted $87,000. So if we don't have free money, it's not available to use unless we decide to take something off our list and put something into place. But we can certainly quickly, and the numbers are there, and I have copies, say, quickly go over that. It's probably something we need to have that we haven't focused on. And maybe next meeting, we should spend some time going through and showing basically, here's a bank account. We've reviewed and approved budgets that say, here's income, here's expenses, here's what's going to be left, and here's capital, but we've not looked at the funds yet.
That's myself.
And it probably helpful next meeting to take us through the funds, but for this discussion tonight, I have paperwork that we can use to go through some of these bullet items. There's not a whole lot of money, except gas tax money, portion of the bill, that's uncommitted. You'd have to take something out of the committed column, put it into uncommitted, to do anything along the lines of some of these things I was talking about. But I'd like to go through some of these, because we kind of have to get a sense for what we really can spend. And I can give these copies to folks, and we can have it on the board. We could take an item, for example, I might suggest, we take an item on Ron's list, look at where the funds would come from, what's available, and let's talk about it quickly. And I have copies for everybody to have that. I think it's easier if you take it one item at a time and see how it applies to the fund balances. But I think next meeting, it probably do a little bit of effort a little bit of presentation, but let's take one of Ron's items and see where it would fall.
And I would just say, Vice Mayor Rocket, this is really a very good approach, because, you know, if you look at our latest bank statement we received, at least for ending December, you know, it tells you there's $3,149,145.11. But, as the Vice Mayor has indicated to you, if you go by what's left in the fund balances, we're not nowhere near that. I mean, you know, we have, you know, and that's one of the reasons why in the CIP, in this budget year, we specifically earmarked monies for certain projects like Fulton Canal Road, because we knew that that was an important project. But, you know, so when you hear, oh, we have 3.1 or 2.9 or whatever, don't think that's just available money to spend that. That's not savings account. I mean, that's all our funds together, that's what we have.
So, I mean, Ron, if you want, and the council wants to proceed, I would say, if you start with Ocean roads that have been finished, you just ask yourself what that cost is. And you look at where the money would come. We know that there was a $3 million loan. We know that each year it's, would be at least $250,000 that we would have to pay. We're already paying 28 in the first year, and hopefully we'll continue. But that's $250, that'll last just so long. And then we're done. And where would you take that from? Assuming we got ownership of the road, we could go to the gas tax money. I presume.
Right, there's only two sources, yeah, gas tax money or the reserve,
Yeah, and if you were to
fund balance
highlight,
in general fund.
if you were to highlight gas tax money, you get two sources, two types. And one would be capital improvement, which would come from which source? Both or just one?
The 5 cents capital
All
improvement.
right. So in this little sheet here that you have a copy of, and it's on the board here, you got $500,000 sitting in 5-cent gas tax money. At the end of 2 years, if we don't use that for anything else, you have no more money to pay for the Ocean roads that have already been completed. Now, the thing that we've already talked about, and we have different opinions, which is great about the council, you have a lot of different opinions, is that you can do that just so often and just so long. Then the rest of the people in this community come forward and say, where's mine? And we say, I'm sorry, we gave it to those other guys. We can't give it to everybody. You know, but you didn't tell me that you was first in line. So the money that we have looks like a lot, but there's a lot coming. So just as an example, and I don't want to take away from Ron's list, but I felt like if we had something to look at, we could at least say, where will we get it and how long will it last? Which is why we only paid $28,000 this year. We pay it. That concept, to me, is fundable for every road that wants to be opened in this community, and everybody would get a little share. We chose why we did that. But
And also, just to add to that, remember, we're currently in the process of working on the amendment because of the limitations on the 5 cents as it relates to capital improvements. So we're going to try to do that, so that source is available, and we can use it in the proper expenditures. But we're working on that. And that's, so just want to point that out.
I guess I'll turn it back to Ron to take that.
It seems like mostly what we think about is the gas tax funds, okay? I'm not relying on the gas tax funds, but I know the management said that they could accept the debt assessment on a yearly basis, and I believe they were figuring like 289,000, okay? The council turned it down, okay? And we had the attitude to where we take the debt assessment this year, in which I'm sure most of these people here that are paying for the paved roads realize what kind of mess that we're in with the county taxes and the mortgage holders and stuff like that, because we didn't take that debt assessment. But the agreement was that we take it on and we pay it on a yearly basis, once a year, and if we got to the point where we couldn't afford it, then it would be assessed like it is now. But hey, long story short is, I can put a hold on this and call it a bucket list or whatever you want, but for me to do that, I want our intergovernmental committee to be directed by this council to start up as soon as we can get a meeting. So the same time town management is working on this, we can come back as a committee and tell you what we think. One of the best guys as far as a CPA and a money man is Tom Ryan. Okay, now I'd like a consensus or a vote on this council, and that as soon as we can get together with the first intergovernmental committee meeting this year, I would like to start the year off as the first member on this committee, because I'm concerned, and I'm sure the Water Control District will allow John Ryan to be their membership. And so that's, I want to come back to the council, not just from management's view, but I want the intergovernment to have some type of situation. And the other thing is, hey, we got a simple one here that we keep prolonging, and we don't care about. I rode on Compton Road today. Compton Road is getting worse and worse. The town made an attempt through our contractor to make a short fix. They went over there and they fixed the potholes, and I'm not gonna get involved with how much it cost, okay? They fixed the potholes, they made an effort, but we need to quit halfway doing things, okay? These people, Marcelo, Compton, and Brian, the longer we wait to resurface these roads, the more it's gonna cost us and the worse it's gonna be. Let me finish, Tom, please. Okay, all right. Now, all I'm asking is at least let's make an effort, okay, to get an estimated cost from 2 or 3 contractors. I don't think we need an RFP to get an estimated cost on these 3 roads. Let's at least make some effort to move ahead with doing something that we can afford. You can't tell me we can't afford to take care of these 3 roads and maintain them. That's the whole purpose of this town, to maintain what we've got. Those roads didn't cost us a dime to get Ojum or paved, okay? So we don't need to be so cheap that we don't take care of them now since we've got them. And the other thing is, I want an estimate, the rest of the council may not want one, but I want an estimate of how much it would cost to clean the drainage ditch out on Compton Road. I'm not saying that we've got to do it, but at least have the courtesy to give the people before hurricane season gets here an estimated cost of what it would take. The rest of this stuff, and I'll make it quick, it won't be 5 minutes of your time. Okay, B Road, for example, I asked a lot of people to come here about B Road, North B Road. Okay, the situation on North B Road, I talked to a lot of residents. I talked to Cassie who headed it up. The vote was a heavy majority against paving it, but a lot of those people, they didn't want it paved because they didn't want the nasty speed humps on their road. And some people were already paying for A and C and D road, and they didn't want to pay double, okay? My point is that South B Road, if the college ever gets started, South B Road is going to be done, okay? It's like North Road. The town, positive thing, the town finished North Road from one end to the other. Beautiful, okay? I'd hate to say what it looks like and complaints we'd have if we went with the original want of leaving it dirt, pavement, and dirt. Okay, we've agreed to do Collecting Canal Road. I'm happy about that, but come on, let's get the ball rolling. Let's see if we can't do it. The South F Road from Collecting Canal to Southern, at the Water Control Board said they want to have that done by July. Let's at least see if we can't have Collecting Canal ready for, at the same time, to cut the cost down and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So my biggest concern is that we can get a intergovernmental, I can be the first one on the team. So that's one thing I'm asking. It don't bother me to come back and if the town says that we can't afford it, this deal about capital improvement, okay? We set aside $1 million. We didn't spend it last year, okay? We're looking for a red light on Okeechobee Boulevard. I don't know how far we are, but I'd be willing to say we ain't halfway through the process of getting it approved, okay? I'm tired of waiting on things that may never happen, okay? If people need a paved road right now, then let's pay for it, and if we can't afford the red light, then we've got an excuse. And I've never said that we bank our contingency fund or our reserves. If we get to the point where they get that low, then we've got to stop. And that's management's to tell us, hey, listen, we can't do any more. We're going to have to wait till we build the funds back.
Let me just offer something on that. If you, we try to earmark where the money is going on the CIP project, so, and that is the capital budget year, so, it's our intention to try to get these projects done during the year. Now, if you're going to want to change priorities, then I think that's something you all need to talk about. I wouldn't go ahead and do that real quickly, but I'd think about that first. And I understand your frustration. You want to get these things done. We do too. We're in the process. We're working on the requirement qualifications for engineering, because I think everybody's in agreement that the Collecting Canal, you can't move forward until you have a survey of the Collecting Canal area, so we know assuredly what we're doing. Relative to the IGC, we talked about it, it was at our last meeting, and I indicated to town council, we're ready to go once we get the administrator for the water district. So if you're telling me now you want me to try to meet with just one of the supervisors, I mean, I suppose I could do that. And I do think right now we're kind of in the middle of Councilman Liang's 4-month tenure. I'm forgetting who's the current supervisor for this period. But, I mean, if you're going to propose changes to the IBC, I'm certainly willing to entertain that and try to work that. But, I mean, we do have some protocols in place, so.
Oh, there's a lot of places to start. For one of them, you know, when it comes to Compton and Marcella, facts are that there's pieces of paper that are signed by the owner of each property on Compton and Marcella that indicate that they have given an easement to Los Angeles Water Control District. If the Water Control District would just sign that over to the town, then it would be our roads, and I wouldn't see any problem doing exactly what Ron says. However, every time we've asked the district to do that, there's been some reticence on their part to turn it over to us. So I wonder why they want us to pay the bill but not turn the road over and then pretend at times that, oh, no, we don't even own that. That's one issue. The other issue, and this is one that Jim brought up several years back, what is our level of responsibility relative to drainage? And this is a very important question, because just because the folks on Compton have a problem doesn't mean that the people on 14th down that road don't have the exact same problem. They also have a ditch that runs back there. Are we taking over that ditch? And are we taking over all the culverts on that road? Are we taking over the lack of culverts on Pineapple? And are we going to come in and do the drainage improvements necessary to prevent flooding that we had before? Are we also going to do these drainage improvements over here on the other side of B Road, behind where we have 30 or 40 homes that were, when they were put in, there was not adequate drainage installed? Or back here in the woods where I live, where there's no adequate drainage? Are we going to take those? Are we going to take for the town the responsibility of developers that failed to do what they want to do because they wanted to get out of here cheap, or because of the water board over the many years just did what it needed to do and nothing more? Are we going to take over all those responsibilities? Because as Jim pointed out, our funds are limited. Now, we can say, as I said before, we can be Santa Claus with these folks' money. We can do everything. We can make it like Arlington. We can seriously pave your road tomorrow with bricks of gold. It's going to cost you. So we have to decide what we want. And if the people on Compton get their ditch cleaned up, then I don't see why everybody else in this town shouldn't come clamoring right down here and demand that we clean their ditch out as well. But we never even touched the ditch on 22nd Court North until we had the deed from the county. Now, why are we not consistent in our actions? I do not understand. I'm only thinking that as a government, we ought to be consistent so that we're not accused of doing one thing for one person and another for another based on whatever reason. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know who knows who. But at times, it seems like certain things are done just because somebody at least knew to go say something. And if God doesn't know to say something, well, then it doesn't get done. We all deserve a fair shake. So we have to, as a town, figure out what is our level of service. And, you know, taking over the responsibility to make sure everybody's got dry feet and not such a growth. It's expensive responsibility. We have a water control district, and I thought that was their job.
Their job is to get the water out. But you're right, there's a lot of problems in our town that I don't know that we could ever afford to pay and fix all on our own. Anyway, Ron.
Okay, well, we can't afford to fix all the problems in this town, but at least let's start fixing some of them. People on Compton and Marcella and Bryan Road, they have approached us and asked for help, okay? We do what we can afford, we keep our reserves high, but for us to wait around till we can afford to solve all the problems in Loxahatchee, that's ridiculous, okay? I mean, let's solve one problem at a time if we can afford to do it. And it's nothing to do with being unfair, and I hate to say it, but I know probably most of the people on Compton Road, so I guess you ain't gonna get it fixed because I know you and I'm on the council. But,
No, that's
no, that's what you said, Tom.
No,
Okay,
no.
hey, cut and dry.
No, cut
Who you know is what you
It's what it
said.
is.
Okay, now,
Well, I didn't say that, but, you know, that's perception. Now, what I'm trying to point out is very simple, that if you do that for the people on Compton, you have to do it for everyone else.
if we can afford it, we will,
Well,
I'm
that's
sure.
the one you can't. You can't.
My main concern with this right here is, can we get the intergovernmental committee going? Would Ryan Lang be willing to let me take his 4 months and then, so, let's take one problem at a
Number
time.
one, we don't have there's not an administrator.
We don't need an administrator, okay? I've always said, and I wish somebody else would chime in here, okay? We've got a town manager and we've got an administrator. For us not to hold a meeting because one of them can't make it, sickness, death, or whatever, that's uncalled for. The main concern is that somebody control the meeting, and if there's a town manager available, he can do that. The district is working as hard as they can to get a new administrator, but it could be next month, it could be 3-4 months from now. For us to hold up on an intergovernmental committee, that is wrong, okay? I'm sure if Mark's available, he'll be there. If he's not available, we'll work around his schedule. If Ryan will let me take his place, if John Ryan can be on the committee, I just want somebody to come to this council and say, hey, we feel we agree with the town management, we can't afford it, or we disagree with town management that we can afford it. Explain each side and let the council make a decision. So that's not a hard decision. I'd like for us to say we can go ahead and establish a new committee and that we can get to work as soon as possible. Either give me a yes or no. If you don't want it, then say so.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to bring up something that I think is a misnomer. Maybe it came out of a newspaper article, but I don't think it ever came out of some actual deliberations that we had as a council and with the water district. I don't believe that we ever have said, and I could be wrong, but I don't think we ever said that we are going to create a interlocal agreement in which the water district is the default contractor. I believe that and Jim can correct me because he was on the IGC, the plan was we were going to do an RFP and the district was going to bid, and then based on the results of the RFP, we were going to determine our contractor. I don't think we ever had a default, we're going to use the district, and then if they don't get it done, we're going to get somebody else. So, I mean, I just like, if Ron's going to be on there or whoever's going to be on there, I think we should have a consensus of what it is that interlocal's going to be like.
I think, Tom, we at one time had a default position approach, but certainly we had changed that to, we need an RFP out there. We need it right away. And along with all the other right-of-way things that we need, but I would challenge Mark that we need to have this done so that within a month, we have the finance committee see it, the council can get some candidates to discuss, and we move that along.
I was
I
just
don't know
getting
how you do it, but, you know, I'm also want to see you spend an hour a week on a particular subject, and I've talked to you briefly about that. So maybe we need a top priority and then lesser priorities, but also spend time. But we definitely have to look at the RFP. We've been talking about it for many.
And you know, it's always good to talk about priorities. Let me update you since we've gotten into the priority issues. The management company has been working diligently on these things. I can tell you that actually it was our intention to try to get, and we've decided to switch it from an RFP to an invitation to bid. And we were going to try to get it up on Friday, if possible. We're getting very close with that one. The engineering one, I'm hoping to have done by the end of January. So we can get that. That would be an RFQ because it's a request for qualifications under CCNA. But Mike and I were talking about this situation today. One thing that counts, and that's why I'm saying priorities, that's why I started off my statement with priorities, because we have a moratorium. Serious, we have to spend a lot of time on it. We have the day case, that the next 2 days, I'm going to be involved in that as far as depositions and preparations. So these are important items that we can't, you know, say we're going to put on the back burner. You know, not everything can be priority one, and I absolutely know. I intended to make that call today to get that ball rolling on the project you and I talked about, and I'm going to do it tomorrow, but, you know, I mean, So we're moving on these projects, but, just have a little patience, because, you guys have really ramped up the expectation in terms of what we're working on right now. And they're all pretty A-priority projects, would you agree? I mean,
We have to conclude that planning process of the comp plan, because your moratorium expires at the end of March. And to meet that deadline, we're gonna have to have proposals brought before you in March. And have some direction given in March. And you can see that's a real compressed timeframe. It may seem like it's far away, but with the workshop for contemplating hospital planning and zoning board, and that takes some real time and a real compressed time. And not to overstate, but the day litigation, it's in federal court. It's on an accelerated schedule. Currently, we're scheduled for trial in that case in April, unless it mediates, mediation, which will probably have to have a meeting with you all afterwards, depending on what occurs there. We're in the midst of discovery. We've been responding to that. It's not taking time away necessarily. It's just that it's one of those component things that has to be done in the short term, because we're deadline driven on both those items.
and let me finally add, if you want the ITB or the request for qualifications on those two projects to go to the FAAC, we're certainly willing to do that. I know you've been saying, get those done, so we were gonna move forward. But if you want that kind of review and you wanna take that a little extra time, okay, do it. Just give me that direction, we'll be happy to do that.
We asked for RFPs for outside services, and that's been a hot issue for many months. If you're close to that, I would say squeeze it in. Because we really need to get that.
And we got an FAACC meeting last Monday in this month, so we can do that if you like.
I mean, I'm speaking for myself.
Yeah.
I think I'm echoing what the council has commented on before. We gotta get that done. And not spend a lot of time on it, but the whole discussion about what we asked the district to do for us, what role they play, is another very long and complex discussion that we can't just have in a short period of time. And
Absolutely.
we have a variety of varied opinions on this council as to what that relationship is.
Absolutely. I wanted to.
So we need the RFP for that specific service, things that we talked about, so we can at least decide what it is that we might get and what it might cost.
I just wanted to add, because I forgot to say this, I thought I heard earlier Supervisor Whiting brought the dependent issue up again, and you said, look at that too, so there's another one you need to decide what you want to do with that again, so.
I don't know that that's completely resolved lately, because of Supervisor Whiting's comments and other comments I've heard at the water use before. I don't know if they're going to sure what we decided that night is how it should be. I'm not saying that I want to be the one to lead the charge to make it a independent district, but Don has said that many times. I've heard some other people echoing that over on that side, so, and he's right, it takes forever to get anything done. We're back into, and we're out in circles for anything.
We got together, we had a workshop, and this is what bothers me about the workshops. It seems like we say one thing at the workshops, and then it's a waste of time because we don't live by what we decide. Mr. Whiting didn't agree with he wanted to make it dependent while we were there, you're right. But we voted as a whole, and the majority said, and our management team, Bill Underwood, CEO of the town of Loxahatchee Groves management firm, noted that he has seen municipal governments and special districts function together autonomously with each other, having well-defined roles. And then we said, Loxahatchee Groves Water Control District will continue with grading and mowing along roads, including town roads, under an interlocal agreement to be drawn up. I don't care how long it takes, but at least we can work on it with the intergovernmental committee. To be drawn up soon. Soon is out of the question. The town will have the option to make agreements with other maintenance firms in the event that Loxahatchee Groves Water Control District is not able to perform, let me finish, Tom, please, the work when needed, or if specialized equipment is required. Now, the reason I've always said if the Loxahatchee Water Control Board is available we're not sending our residents' tax dollars out to a private contractor. Basically, if we pay, right now, the water control district is willing to do our hedging and stuff for free until we can get an interlocal agreement, till we can get an RFP where everybody can bid, including the district. All I'm asking is that, hey, council, come on, let's don't deprive the citizens of the necessity of hedging and stuff right now, especially my road. I guess I'm out of line to ask for my road to be hedged. But let's allow the district to do what they're capable of doing for free while we come up with an interlocal agreement, while we come up with RFPs. That's all I'm asking. Okay, and then maybe when the RFPs come out and people bid on it, we'll find out that nobody can beat the cost of the water control district. John Ryan has already come up with a plan, hedging for example, $51.20 an hour for a tractor, a man, to go out and hedge our streets. There's no contractor out there that can beat that. I worked 9 years in construction. But if there is a contractor out there that can beat it, we can get the low man. But the only difference is when we pay that contractor, our tax dollars go out of this town. If we pay the district $5 more, that money stays within this town. It keeps the district from raising assessments. It keeps us from raising taxes. But we spend our money on our people in our town. So at least let's agree that we'll continue to take care of the people of Loxahatchee while we come up with an interlocal agreement. That's all I'm asking.
Tom?
The idea that it's free is really, it's just not believable. It's hard to, I guess, to say it for the 19th time. We have two different tax bases. You can't say that as you take money from one pocket and spend it in another, that that's okay. It's not right. Further, we take $150,000 of the town's money from the gas tax and we give it to the district. If we gave John Choquette or George Perez $150,000, they'd probably give us a good deal too on our price. Just give them a subsidy. They could probably afford to give us a lower per hour price. So to say that, you got some sort of apples to apple comparison there, you're already subsidized. And you're subsidizing with the money that is taken from ad valorem taxes. And you're giving it over there to the district that's charging people on an acre basis. So basically what you're doing is you're taking money from homeowners and subsidizing the big ag folks. But, hey, I guess that's all right. But the problem is I don't think it is. And I think that that's one of the reasons why we need to get this resolved. And I agree with Ron. It does seem like we have a meeting, and then immediately we're 5 steps back before we were. But that's not this council backtracking. We agreed to exactly what it was. And when the water district was given the opportunity to agree to the same roads that we agreed to the turnover, they had exemptions and exceptions, one of those being Compton. That's why we're not paying for Compton yet, because they didn't come it over. Because they had a chance and didn't. Come on, that's the reality. That's what really happened.
All right. What do we need to do to get this meeting resolved? We've still got 5, 6 items here. We're not going
Motion
to...
to adjourn would be.
No, first of all, can we establish an intergovernmental committee? I've only asked it 3 or 4 times.
Well,
I make a motion that we establish an intergovernmental committee again, and that we do it now, and we make a meeting as soon as possible, as long as the town manager can be available. I would like to be on that first meeting.
and that'll be up to...
That'll be up to Ryan Leang, and I'm sure that John Ryan can be the other one, and he's very qualified when it comes to determining on budget, money, and stuff like that. That's all I'm at. Make a motion.